Hey everybody, good afternoon. I think it is now. Not sure what time you'll be when you watch this, but I wanted to. This is Stacy Rogers, and candidate for governor of Kansas, and I wanted to further address the interview that I did with KAKE News and some comments that were made as well in the article by Republican leadership. First and foremost, I am a Republican through and through. I am a supporter of the Republican platform, but there are things that are going on inside of the Republican Party that I do not agree with, and this is one of them. And so I felt the need to address it because, as most of you know, if you've been following my campaign is about the people. It is not about money. Obviously, you need money to run a campaign. That's a no-brainer. And so I want to address some of the information that was presented in that article, but I also want to kind of talk through a little bit about what I think needs to change. And so, when I started this campaign, I was brand new. I had been around a little bit. I'd been a city council member, and I in a little town back when my kids were young. And so, but I'm a business owner, and so I was seeing things happening that I was not comfortable with. I did not like, and in the Republican Party and the Democratic Party and the government in general. And I just said, I just have had enough of this. I'm gonna run, and started having conversations with people and came to the conclusion that this was the right thing to do and the right time to do it. So here we are. This has been a year since I filed my treasure and have started campaigning, almost a year since I officially announced. But this has actually been 2 years in the making. September of 23 is when I first started to talk about this. So this is not something that just kind of popped up out of the blue and I decided I should go do this. This is something that I gave a lot of thought. I finish what I start, and I don't quit once I start it. I'm pretty dang tenacious when it comes right down to it. And when I know that something needs to be fixed and that there's a problem, and something needs to change, then I don't back down. So I can't be bullied. I can, that you can try. It's been tried already, but I absolutely will not stop. And it's not because of me. I'm not doing this for me. I'm just one person in this state. But as I've talked with people across the state and how frustrated and upset they are at the way the system works, the way things are going, I really didn't feel like I had a choice. If you can open that box and look inside and see everything that's going on and walk away from it, God bless you. I just can't. And so, so let me address a couple things in this article, and I'll kind of talk about why this is a problem. So in the article, Denidre Herbert said that $500,000 is about half of what Derek Schmidt had as of January. Well, okay, first problem there, Derek Schmidt was already an established politician in this state, and probably just had that sitting in an account. And he also had big money donors backing him. As a grassroots candidate, first of all, to date, the only campaign funds that I've received have been from citizens of this state and small to medium businesses. I've received absolutely no big backing from, the big names that we can all think of. I'm not going to mention them. And so, that has been a key point of this campaign, is that this is for the people. This is not for big money corporations to come in and buy their way in. This is fully funded by the people of this state. And there's plenty of people that have money in this state to donate. The maximum contribution by a single individual is $4,000 in the primary and $4,000 in the general. And so, of course, it takes money to run a campaign. That is not why I did not sign the contract. It has nothing to do with that. In fact, that was an irrelevant point to me in the contract. However, it was the other things in the contract that made me not sign it. So we'll get to those in a minute, but I want to go back to this 500,000. So, you know, Denidre said, if you don't have that amount of money, it says it's nearly impossible to win the primary. I'm going to disagree with that, but we'll get to that in a second. And it probably makes it completely impossible to win the general. Okay, that's where we've got a problem. So she's focusing on the general election. And then she goes on to say later, in Kansas, to win a statewide election, you need 500,000 votes. And she's talking about door knocking 500,000 doors. Now, in the primary, it doesn't take 500,000 votes to win. That would be cool. That'd be a complete shutout. But that's about the number. It was actually less than that. In the last election, about 495,000 people voted, or 485,000 people voted on the Republican side. We also know, because I've talked to people, that Republicans actually crossed the party line and voted for Laura Kelly. So though we did not even capture all of the Republican votes. So when we're talking about voting in a general, when we're talking about the primary, those two numbers don't actually matter or make any sense. And the fact that she focused on that is one of the issues. So you're right, 500,000 doors, 500,000 votes. Cool. That is true for the general election. But let's back up to the primary, because in the primary, let's say all 9 candidates stayed in this race, which is unlikely, by the way, through the primary. Then we're splitting those votes quite dramatically. And, you know, you might only need 20% of the votes or 25% of those votes in order to win the primary, because it's whoever has the most votes moves on. It's not a majority. It's whoever has the most moves on. So that number is a little bit misleading in this article because of that statement. So I want people to be clear. Let's not focus on the general. Let's focus on the primary and getting someone through the primary. Now, the other part of that, she was saying, you know, it takes 5 years to build this. I've already been told that I have the fastest growing social media platform of any political candidate in this state. And that tells me there's a lot of frustrated Kansans out there right now that want something different, that want to change. And so I don't care about that dollar amount they keep throwing around, because what I've been able to do in the last year alone, and I didn't even announce and really start amassing people to the pages until after November. So we're talking, you know, less than a year. I have, you know, last month I had just under 1.4 million views to my personal Facebook page alone. Now, I do know that there are supporters out there that are not following me directly because they don't want other people to see that they're following me, that are detractors from the Republican Party or detractors within the Republican Party. They don't want people to know that they're supporting me. So they don't follow me. They read my stuff. They do not like it. They do not comment. And that's perfectly fine. Because I understand their reasons. So, because politics is dirty, you guys, if you haven't figured that one out yet. So when we're looking at that and we are talking about, one page of 1.4, just under 1.4 million views in the last 90 days, 550,000 views just last month on that one page, and over 900,000, probably more than that, but it's difficult to count on some of the social media sites. Over 900,000 a month are seeing my content, and you know, people are engaging with it. People are commenting, whether they agree with me or not, that's fine. And then Facebook automatically boosts that content out even further, based on the number of interactions, based on the number of people seeing it and sharing it and commenting on it. And so that is what has organically boosted that. I've not paid for any political ads whatsoever. I am a very good steward of money. And because of that, I'm proving that you don't need the dollar amount that everyone says you need. Now, again, a campaign costs money, guys. There's no way around that. It costs money. And the second part of that is saying, where she's saying that to win the general would be impossible without $500,000. I completely agree. I completely agree. But the Republican Party itself has said that whoever gets through the primary, that we should all agree to fully get behind that person. So almost what she was saying at that moment is that, are they going to back me if I'm the one that gets through the primary? Are they going to throw their support behind their Republican candidate? Now that remains to be seen. I believe that if I got through to get through the primary is the first step and the most major step that's needed to get to get the vote, obviously, to get the support. So we need to get through that primary. I'm not even concentrating on the general. And we'll get to that later because that's a whole other ball of wax going up against the other side, the Democratic side. So I have no problems with the fact that there's going to need to be a lot more money involved in the general election. 100% agree with that. But that's not why I didn't sign the contract. The reason that I didn't sign the contract is there was a basic ownership contract in my campaign. It was saying who, what, when, where, how, and why I could be speaking with someone, where I could talk with people, who I could talk with, and in what scenarios. And so to me, that was counterintuitive to being able to speak to the people of the state and to really be able to get in front of enough people and talk with them the way that I have been doing. If I am limited, if we cannot have candidate forums anymore, we cannot have different groupings of candidates, that's going to limit some of the activities. And that's fine. I believe that I'm the only one who did not sign that contract because I do not want my campaign to be limited in its options of what we can do and what we cannot do. I don't believe that that should be a stipulation if it's not set forth by the state. So the state requires a paying of a filing fee of $2,500, and you have to file with your lieutenant. So in other words, you have to get to that filing date in June of 26 with a lieutenant beside you and pay that filing fee. Now, you look at what she said about some weirdo coming in and getting on the ballot. Of course we don't want that. We want a legitimate candidate. However, those kind of candidates wouldn't go very far anyways. And so months and months ago, I was approached by a member of the Republican leadership now and was told that they were going to create rules to make sure that we had serious candidates involved. Now, arguably, 44,000 miles on my car, 40 to 60 hours a week campaigning, answering each and every message privately, personally. I can't always keep up with comments, but if you message me, email me, I'm going to respond back to you. And I've refused to let my team take that away from me yet because it is so important that I hear your voice and that you hear directly back from me. So I would argue that I'm a serious candidate because of the fact of how many rooms I've been in, how many people I've spoken to, and how determined and dedicated I have been to making sure that I get in front of people and talk with them. As I've said in the article, I believe there should be campaign limits. The amount you can spend on a campaign should be limited on both sides by everybody. And it would immediately do a couple of different things. It would limit the amount of big money that could come into play, number one. Number two, it would make sure it would force candidates out into the public in front of actual citizens to talk with them directly. And I think you would find out very quickly which candidates you would want to support and which ones you would not, very quickly. And then I got to wrap this up, but and then third, it would keep them from hiding behind campaign materials that clog our mailboxes and all of those pesky commercials that interrupt our shows. And so, and you would know who you were talking to and what they really wanted to do for you. So a lot of times people ask me why I don't put a lot of stuff out there on the platform, specific to what I want to do. That's because I would rather talk with you directly, and I would rather sit across from you face to face and answer your questions. So again, I'm going to let you go. This has been 15 minutes. So thank you guys for watching. Please ask me any questions you have. I have lots to talk to you about. There's a lot of things in the state. I'm going to come back and do some separate videos on different topics as well. God bless and take care. Bye.